So square root t times natural log e raised to h bar pi. So life is really talking about the derivative of x dx. Oh man, it's tough. Oh, excuse me. I didn't see you there. I was too busy solving one of life's many math problems. Hi, so I had to put that little side project on pause a second while I came in, helped you out with your science fair report that we're going to be starting here. I'm going to make several videos here that walks you through step by step on exactly what I want you to do for the science fair paper. Now we've already done our background paper. Okay, we've already done pages 1 through 3. We've already started our science fair report as a whole. All we're going to do is add to our science fair report. Specifically this time we're focusing on the background research paper. So I've got a video that goes through the basics of this report, and it's going to go step by step. I'm basically going to read the assignment to you because I know how bad you guys don't like to read. So this first video covers just what the assignment is supposed to be. The next video we'll talk about how to actually set up and how to add to your science fair report that you've already got, and we'll go through and we'll make sure your formatting's good. And then the last video I'm going to go ahead and talk about how to do your bibliography, because your bibliography, your list of sources, okay, that should be included with your research paper. So when we submit our background research paper, not the background research, you've already done that, but when you submit your science fair research paper, it will have your first 3 pages, it will have your research paper, and it will have your bibliography. Please don't give me your research. I want the polished paper. Okay, so it's going to be a couple pages here. It's going to be about 6 pages. All right, here we go. This is for the science fair background research paper. If we open up your home page here for Canvas, you can come to my page, scroll down to the bottom, and if you click on Science Fair, what you'll get is a list of assignments. And so what we're going to do is we're starting our background research paper. So I'm looking here at October 27th. You also need to start your experiment at this time. Make sure you're taking pictures, collecting data, and using those tables that Science Buddies has given you. Now if you're off Science Buddies, you're going to need to make your own tables. Okay, so you got a little bit of extra work. That should be okay. This is due on November 10, and we want to click on the Science Fair background research paper to figure out exactly what we need to do. Okay, so I'm going to look at the Science Fair background research paper, and it says your assignment is to write a 1 to 2 page paper that will go on your last page and is not included in the first 2 pages of your research paper. Okay, so your bibliography is at the very end. The research paper itself is about 2 pages. That explains the science and important definitions in your experiment. And so we'll go through the bullets here in just a second. This paper answers the question, why does anyone care about your experiment? Your experiment should be an interesting and fun discovery of something. This paper explains why that discovery is important in scientific terms. Now you've been doing a lot of research. You should know more about this topic than I do. You should teach me something when I'm reading it. Okay, keep that in mind. Teach me something. You've learned something, tell me what you've learned. Use the following guidelines to write 3 paragraphs and a bibliography. So this is a 3 paragraph, 10 sentences each. We're looking for about 1 to 2 pages. Okay, I'm not real big on the page count, but I am big on it being complete and you're answering all of the questions I'm asking. So, continuing reading here on the assignment, it says once your paper is submitted, you'll have to review 2 other classmates' work and make comments on their work to help them revise and edit. So this first time we turn it in, it's going to be a rough draft. You're going to have in the right-hand side here where it says peer reviews, you're going to have somebody's name there. You'll probably have 2 names there because I'm asking for 2 of them. And you'll be able to go through there and read somebody else's paper, and you can make comments on them saying, this sentence doesn't make sense, etc., etc. Okay, you forgot to capitalize these letters, something like that. You can find a link to your peer reviews in the upper right-hand corner the day after you submit this paper. So you won't see them until the 11th. So your paper needs to be completed on a Google document and submitted using the Docs tab by November 10th. Your peer reviewers will be assigned on the 11th, so the day after. You should refer to the research you've collected often. Now, I'm not a big proponent of having you print off 30-some pages. If this was my experiment, I probably would print off all 30 pages, and I'd go through and highlight them. I think that would be less work. Highlighting it, maybe making notes on the research pages that you printed off, that's a pretty good way to do it. But if you can do it digitally and not print anything off, I think that's better. So what you're going to want to do is take notes on a separate piece of paper about what you're reading. Okay? And hopefully with Mrs. Dodds, you're reading all of this research and you've already begun to summarize some of that. You may find that you need to complete additional research as you go along. Please include any new information in your science fair research document. And don't forget to cite it. So let's say I have 5 sources right now. Okay, I've hit my requirement, but what if I'm going through and I'm answering or I'm trying to write my paper and I don't quite have that information? Maybe I don't have a good story about the history of my experiment. Well, go do a little bit more research, find another source, copy and paste it into your science fair research, and then cite it. And now you have 6 sources. 6 sources is more than 5. That's at least 5 sources, so you're still good. Okay? That means you have a better paper because you have more sources. Okay? Formatting. The formatting of this paper should be 12-point font. It should be black. It should be Times New Roman. It should be double spaced. It should have page numbers at the bottom right. Name, date, period in the upper right part of the header. We've gone over this a lot. I want to show you how to set that up again. Paragraph 1 says a hook. Get the reader interested in your science fair topic. The second sentence here. Tell me what your topic is. Third sentence. Briefly describe what you're trying to show with your experiment. And I'm asking for actually 2 sentences here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences so far. Why did you choose this topic? Please don't put down because Mr. Kimball told me I had to do this one. Make something up, okay? Hopefully you're interested in your topic and you picked it for a reason. Don't tell me that I told you to do it, okay? Make it up. I don't know. You found it interesting. Try to get on board with this. Next sentence. What is a brief history about this topic? Now, tell an interesting story. Think about the history of the atom that we talked about. That was 200 years of different scientists adding stuff to this one model. That's a pretty interesting story about an atom. Okay, tell me a history. What is their major research scientist in this field? If you're talking about buoyancy, you better talk about Archimedes. Archimedes was the guy who came up with buoyancy. Okay, the law of buoyancy. That should be in your topic if you're dealing with the salty egg one. You're floating something. In fact, anybody that's floating something should have Archimedes in there because he came up with this law of buoyancy. Tell about that story. It's a pretty cool story about him in the bathtub trying to figure out how much he weighed. And it's a pretty good story, so do some reading on that. Or whatever other topic you have. How did he or she play a role in this advancement of this idea? It might be a more advanced idea. You might have to think about these Nobel Prize winners. Okay. Paragraph 2. Remember, start your next paragraph with a tab, please. What science discipline does your science fair topic fall under? Is it geology? Is it physics? Is it medicine, biology, etc.? If you're doing something with density, you're floating an egg, you're probably going to deal with physics. If you're dealing with throwing a ball or anything with a trajectory or a fall or something like that, you're probably dealing with physics. If you're dealing with sports, maybe it's a sports medicine, something like that, or maybe sports physiology or biology, how the body works. If you're doing something with rocks or metals, maybe you're dealing with geology or chemistry if you're dealing with acids. So read into your topic. You should come up with a major science discipline. The second sentence is asked more specifically, what is the biggest keyword for your topic? If you're floating the egg, it's buoyancy. Okay, for physics, I might say ballistics. Okay, the physics behind a ball or a trajectory or throwing something is typically called ballistics. That's a good keyword. Then list 5 or 6 minor keywords and their definitions. Those are like what's an ion, what's a solution, that sort of stuff. Disassociation, buoyancy, all those little words. Define those and relate them to your topic. And this should be quite a few sentences. This is the meat and potatoes, if you will, of paragraph 2. This is why we want paragraph 2. Explain the science. Any major theorems, theories, laws, rules, anything that somebody came up with, like the law of buoyancy, that should be mentioned. If you can include the math, please include the math. Paragraph 3. What is the real-world application of this topic? Okay, now we're getting to the point about who cares you did an experiment. Experiment's fun to do, but who cares? Where are we going to use this? If you're melting ice with salt, who do you think cares about salt and ice and roads? Okay, who would use this in the industry? Make it count. Why is this experiment important? Your experiment is important. Tell us why. If the science of your topic was continued into the future or combined with other sciences that you know about, what could this look like in 50 years? We had talked about that one science in the news idea where this guy was transmitting brainwaves from India to France and back, and so he's basically shooting brainwaves just with his brain through a computer system. Well, and we talked about combining that with maybe Google Glass. So we have Google Glass. We have this brain transmission type thing going on over the internet. What could you do? Well, we talked about, what if you hooked up Google Glass to your brain, and instead of talk to text, maybe you could think to text, and you could text people just with Google Glass. So that would be a combination of 2 sciences or 2 technologies that we had talked about in the future. That might happen. Or maybe thinking to drive someplace, and maybe you think and then your car drives it there. We could combine a couple of technologies to get there. This third sentence here, which parts of your experiment relate to your minor keywords? Okay, so tie in the reasoning, why people care about your experiment, to the definitions. Did you actually enjoy researching about this? I know research isn't always fun, but hopefully you learned something interesting and you started to kind of see the potential here. And tell me whether or not you liked it or what parts you did like about it. And then, would you consider a career in a job, or what jobs would this fall under? Like, who would be doing this? Okay. And then down here, this last little bit talks about the bibliography. I want to make a separate video about the bibliography. So right now, keep in mind these 3 paragraphs and the formatting. Okay.